the macro environment has already changed, but we can't just blame external factors. The restaurant and service industries have essentially lost to themselves. They lost because of poor management and operational capabilities. I know saying this might offend people, and it might even make a lot of people uncomfortable, but unless we face the pain and acknowledge the problem, we can't start from the right place. 2 years ago, I said that 2020 was the hardest year, but it might also be the best year of the next decade. The restaurant and service industries have proven this statement true. On one hand, the industry is facing rapidly rising costs on the supply side. On the other hand, demand is shrinking and expectations are weakening. The rapid increase in supply-side costs is mainly reflected in several areas. Rent is getting more expensive, and labor costs are rising. 5 years ago, wages in the service industry were probably only half of what they are now, and 5 years from now, labor costs in the service industry may be more than double what they are today. This is a structural cost shock caused by slow-moving variables like demographic changes. At the same time, the market-driven rise in costs for production factors such as water, electricity, gas, and carbon emissions due to resource restrictions has impacted the cost structure of all industries. In addition, the inclusion of Social Security and taxation, the implementation of the Golden Tax Project Phase 4 and 7, and the push for common prosperity by increasing the share of primary distribution for workers, all of these are unfavorable for China's labor-intensive catering and service industries. At the same time, consumer demand is showing a shrinking trend, and expectations for future income improvement are weakening. People do not have strong confidence in improvements to their future income levels or in per capita income growth. In the past, people were willing to spend money, but now they've developed a habit of precautionary saving. In recent years, precautionary savings have grown very rapidly, which has actually greatly squeezed effective demand. Changes in population structure, aging, declining birth rates, and rapidly falling fertility levels will also lead to weakened consumption capacity and a sharp shift in the supply-side cost curve. In summary, with multiple factors overlapping, the era of high economic growth in China is gone for good, and future economic development will not favor traditional labor-intensive industries. In this situation, the food and beverage and service industries, which are sectors where hard work can lead to prosperity, are facing tough times due to unfortunate timing and natural disasters, and with slow industry progress, the development of these sectors is indeed extremely difficult. For China's economy to truly achieve a successful transformation, it must, and can only, firmly rely on consumption, especially domestic demand, and it must be driven by the consumer service industry, with the restaurant industry being the most important part of it. Food is the most basic necessity for people, and only the restaurant and modern service industries can absorb large numbers of workers. Advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and the metaverse cannot accommodate such large-scale employment. Without the support of consumption and the development of modern service industries, without their role as stabilizers and ballast, China's economic transformation and growth will face unprecedented pressure and challenges. There would also be no strategic resolve or sufficient fiscal capacity to support the development of technology industries and the move of industries up the value chain. In this situation, blindly and single-mindedly advocating for technological progress is not only unrealistic but also unachievable. In a sense, the topic of technology has become overheated, while the fundamental role of consumer demand and the importance of the livelihood system have not received enough attention. The awareness of consumption as a stabilizer and ballast is lacking and has not been emphasized enough. The restaurant industry is a traditional sector. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics in 2023, the restaurant industry had a total economic output of 5.3 trillion yuan. I estimate that if you include mom-and-pop shops and unregistered individual businesses, the actual numbers are even higher. In fact, in terms of output scale and number of employees, the restaurant industry is already the largest sector in China. However, this industry is traditional and lagging behind, dominated by a chef-centered mindset. Modern management science and modern corporate systems have not been fully introduced, and the overall quality of workers is not that high. There is a serious lack of systematization, corporate governance, supply chain science, brand awareness, and standardized production in the industry. Modern corporate systems are just beginning to take root in this industry, not to mention digital operations or the development of intellectual and brand assets. Right now, many people are investing in ramen shops and other small niche products, but at the core, they still lack a deep understanding of the industry. In the consumer sector, it's important to invest in management, standards, and systematic operational capabilities. To some extent, choosing and investing in the right people is even more crucial, especially in their mindset, growth, and ability to learn. How big of an impact will the traditional restaurant industry face in the future? This is truly a life-or-death moment and a major turning point for the industry. If it doesn't move toward modernization and standardization, the restaurant industry is destined to be a case of survival of the fittest. With low-level, repetitive development. The pandemic was an unexpected factor, a black swan event, but at its core, the industry lost to itself, and the loss was due to poor management. Even a relatively modernized company like丨had to close 300 stores during the pandemic to make up for shortcomings. Let me ask those non-leading brands, are you丨? Are you Haiti or Cayenne? If even the absolute top companies are struggling this much, what about the others? For an industry to go digital, it must adopt an industrial internet mindset, using digitalization to empower companies in reverse and achieve leaps in development and efficiency. First, you need to understand the needs of end consumers, the C end. Second, you need to understand the business side, the B end. And third, you face the challenge of improving efficiency across the entire industry chain. This all relies on modern management, and the most important tool in the middle of all this is digital operations. The pain point here is that the restaurant industry has a long supply chain, stretching from the very beginning all the way to the dining table. Integrating procurement, sales, and inventory into one system means you have to map out every value chain and value node, reinvent the company's business processes, and also be able to use digital methods to identify these processes, bring business operations online, and keep the organization connected online. Truly achieving business datafication in data-driven business is extremely difficult. It's like deconstructing and reconstructing the entire company. This is a process of iterative rebirth, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. But only those who emerge from the ruins are true heroes. Jiawa Capital is willing to act as a business partner, steadfastly advancing the development of Chinese industries with an altruistic and empowering mindset. Step by step, day by day, no effort will be wasted.